وحبيبنا وقرة أعيننا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد. رضي الله عنه قال النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. The hadith tonight is a collection of Imam Muslim, narrated to us by Abu Hurairah. And the theme that I've been using for these kind of drop-in khawatir that I'm doing over the summer is the Prophet ﷺ's ability to see the bigger picture, and how he practiced that in his life, and how he taught that to his ashab in his life. And I've narrated maybe 4 hadith or so far, and this is the 5th one. And this is a hadith that everyone here knows, but maybe the usage of it has not been of this nature specifically. And I want to narrate it for you today with the focus on this specific angle of it. Because I believe when he said these things, alayhi salatu wasalam, he was trying to point out this piece to us. And the hadith is long, and I'll just come to the point that I want to narrate for you that I think is of significance. قال ثم ذكر الرجل عليه الصلاة والسلام يطيل السفر أشعث أغبر ينادي يا رب يا رب ومشربه حرام ومطعمه حرام وملبسه حرام وغذي بالحرام فأنى يستجاب له. So what he said alayhi salatu wasalam in this hadith, that it started in different ways. A long hadith talks about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and what Allah commanded the prophets and us to do. But then he talks about ثم ذكر الرجل. Abu Hurairah says ثم ذكر الرجل. I mean, the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam started talking about an example of a man. He just an anonymous human being, just a regular person, a man. And he describes him, رجل يطيل السفر, someone who is always traveling. And the way I understand it, this is going from, for example, from Medina to Mecca, performing Umrah, performing Hajj. يطيل السفر أشعث أغبر. Ash'ath meaning his hair has changed color into something that's lighter in color because of all the sand that's in it. Aghbar meaning all of his clothing that he's wearing, they look shady because they're covered with sand, because he's often traveling. So he looks very humble on the outside because of all of this traveling that he's doing. Yunadi, Ya Rab, Ya Rab. And he's someone who is performing all the rituals. He looks humble, and he sits there and he's calling Ya Rab, Ya Rab, and he's calling upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, using the way of calling Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that is filled with love. When you speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you say Ya Rab. Rab is the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is filled with care and mercy and love. And then the Prophet ﷺ says, but this man, what he drinks is from a haram source, what he eats is from a haram source, his clothing that he's wearing is from a haram source, and he was fed haram growing up. فَأَنَّا يُسْتَجَابُ لَهُ. How is this person going to find the response of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the positive response? And this, to me, this hadith is, some people say, oh, it's about istijab al-du'a. Not really. Honestly, I don't think that's what he's talking about here. I think he's trying to take your attention, or draw your attention towards the bigger picture. I mean, if you get caught up in the details and you forget what really matters, if you don't know how to weigh out priorities in the deen, then you're going to end up in a difficult situation. So yes, he's performing the umrahs and the hajjs, and he's going back and forth, and he looks humble, and he's Ya Rab, Ya Rab, but there's an essential problem. There's a haram, mal haram is in his pocket. It's unlawful wealth that he is carrying with him. This doesn't matter. This piece doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter how many times he's performed the hajj, and doesn't matter how humble his dress is, doesn't matter how much dua he's memorized in his life, and how much Quran he recites, and how much dhikr he does, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. This is all and this is what I mean by understanding the bigger picture. If you get caught, see, all of the things he talked about regarding this man are important things. يطيل السفر, meaning في الطاعة, he's performing the safar في الطاعة. And he's humble in dress, and he's making dua. These are all good things. Who dares say any of these things are not positive things? They're beautiful things, right? But if there's an essential piece that's not there, if this person did not know how to prioritize, or missed the bigger picture, he focused on the details, he focused on some of the tertiary aspects of worship. You worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by eating halal only. That is the first way you worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you can afford to never travel in your life for rituals, and you can afford never to memorize all the ad'iyah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasallam, and never, if you make sure you eat halal. This is what he's trying to explain. You could afford to have very little knowledge of dua, and very few travels of umrah, and if you eat halal. You will be farther ahead Yawm al-Qiyamah if you do that piece. This is just, see, if that's not clear, like if a Muslim doesn't understand that, then we're in trouble. If you're coming for Jumu'ah and you block someone's driveway with your car, right? You are better off not praying Jumu'ah at all that week. You would be in a better position Yawm al-Qiyamah than this. If that's not clear, if to you, no, it's a faridah, so I can harm someone else to get to it. If you somehow think that these things are the same, then you're missing the bigger picture here. Yes, of course, Jumu'ah is faridah. Of course you have to pray Jumu'ah. Of course you have to pray Jumu'ah. But if you're going to the trade-off for that is some degree of harm. If the trade-off for it is some degree of harm, then then the whole topic is misunderstood. Because it isn't. Because you're not allowed to do that. Under any circumstance. You cannot justify, say, it's okay, this business doesn't have to make money for this hour because I want to pray Jumu'ah. No, that's none of your business. This is not, you don't get to do that. That's a line you are not permitted to cross because you want to do a ritual. These things in Islam, ya akhi, have to be understood first, and they have to be understood deeply first, before we can talk about all the beautiful things. Here's how many, here's these adhkar, do them this number of times a day. Here's your hizb of Quran. Make sure you perform qiyam al-layl. Let's do, these are all beautiful things. We do them here all the time. I teach them all the time. But if that is not preceded by a fundamental understanding of what the bigger picture is based on, that your wealth has to be halal, that you cannot harm other people while you do any of this stuff, then I don't know if there's any benefit of us doing these things. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ gave this example. Why did he give this example? He's saying, a guy, see the guy, he's humble, he's one of those people you want to be. Fi sabilillah, humble, Ya Rabb, safar, umrah. But then he's eating haram. Anna yustajabu lah, is what he said. It's like, you'll never find response from Allah. La ilaha illallah. Imagine that. Imagine you'll be completely rejected by God just because. And that's why I'm warning you. That the Prophet ﷺ, he had those priorities clear. He knew what had to happen first. It's more beloved to Allah that you worship Him through mal halal than it is through all the adhkar and ad'iyah and asfar that you will do in ta'ah. He loves this more. And if you don't do this, He doesn't want the rest of it. He wants that first. But He wants those too. But He wants that first. And to me, that's the Prophet ﷺ zooming out and showing you the bigger picture so that you don't get lost. يروي الإمام مسلم في صحيحه عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال في حديث طويل قال ثم ذكر الرجل قال عليه الصلاة والسلام ثم ذكر الرجل يطيل السفر أشعث أغبر ينادي يقول يا رب يا رب ومطعمه حرام ومشربه حرام وملبسه